Hi, my name's Tyler Bryant, Tyler Bryant.
What do I do in the mountains? I fish. I chose fishing over all the other activities in the mountains because it is my passion and I can escape from reality. When I look for a new fishing spot, I always walk around the whole entire lake to check to see if any fish are rising, to see if there's any structural things where fish can hide under, and if there's any fish jumping. The challenges that I face while fishing would be weather and having the proper gear. My favorite part of the dream stream is I'm out there alone and nobody's around to bother me. I'm in my own tranquility. I can fly fish. They have beautiful, beautiful water, crystal clear water. What are my favorite fishing spots? I would have to say my favorite fishing spots are, like I said, the Dream Stream. But if I can't make the trip up there, then I would have to be at Evergreen Lake. They have great fish. My favorite ways to catch a fish are fly fishing and spin rod fishing. If I had to choose between a fly rod and a spinning rod, I would choose a fly rod because of the difficulty. It's a lot more difficult to catch a fish on a fly rod than it is a spinning rod. The major differences between setting up a fly rod and a spinning rod are completely different. A fly rod, you have to have tippet, you have to have a leader, and then you have to choose between your line if you want floating or sinking. And with a fly rod, they are way, way longer than a spinning rod. And on a spinning rod, when you go to set up a spinning rod, there you can choose your size depending on, how tall you are and how far you want to cast. Those are things you would have to ask somebody at a tackle box store if you don't know. But setting up a spinning rod, you basically, the main thing about a spinning rod is the line. Because if you have 4 pound test line and you hook into a big fish that's over 4 pounds, it's gonna break. Period to the end, your line is gonna snap. So you need to know what fish you're targeting and what type of line you need to spool onto your spin rod. And then after you spool on your spin rod, you pick out your baits for what fish you're targeting, and all you have to do is tie them on. And with a fly rod, after you get, I don't know, there's probably 4 parts because I have a 9 foot rod. You have to get all of it up, the tippet. You go tippet, and then you go leader, and then you tie the leader onto your fly line, and then you check the water to see what flies there are and try to mimic the best you can and tie that fly onto the end of your tippet.
Alright, stop there. Gotta be careful.
Which lures and flies I know to use is because in the mountains they have a natural shrimp population. So I always go with pink if I am gonna be using a spin rod. If I'm fly fishing, I always get a cup, dip it in the water, and check for what type of bugs are in the water and try to mimic them. My favorite type of fish to catch are rainbow trout and pike. My favorite types of bait to use while trout fishing are worms, marshmallows from the store, but I also like to add garlic for scent, and fresh salmon eggs. The key moments that I look for is if you're bobber fishing, your bobber will go up and down, and that's when you set the hook and you should have a fish. And if you're bait fishing with the weight at the bottom and your tip of your pole starts going up and down, that's when you set the hook. And if you're fly fishing, you have an indicator on there that shows you you're getting a bite, and you have to pull the string and pull back, and you should have a fish. When I catch a fish, I always release it unless one of my loved ones does want it, because I do it for the sport. Fishing is important to me because it's been a family tradition my whole life. My grandpa taught me how to fish when I was 3 years old, like I said, and he passed away when I was 5. And since then, my grandma and we had a property up in Bailey, Colorado, and we had our own private lakes. So my grandma and I would always go up there and go fishing. And that's just a huge memory that I always have and will always keep. And that is the main reason I fish. My advice to future fishermen is to never give up and always have tight lines.
Jacob Gibney, it's spelled Jacobgibney. I like to come out to the mountains to learn and take photos of animals. I feel like it brings me into nature more, and it's challenging to try to get that perfect shot with an animal. I'd have to say probably like 7 or 8, back when my mom had first brought me out to take some photos of hot air balloons. I found a passion in photography a few years ago when I found out that my grandpa had a background in photography. A major obstacle is getting in the right place at the right time. Timing is everything. Some of my favorite animals I'd have to say are my dogs and smaller animals and birds that are flying. Some of my favorite locations are as close as I can get to home, such as Mount Herman or Garden of the Gods or Palmer Park, Colorado Springs. My favorite season is by far autumn or fall. It's got changing colors in the backgrounds, and the weather, it's always changing, and sometimes you get some snow, and I think fall and autumn is my favorite for sure. Some of the most important pieces are water and warmth. I want my dog to not die, and I want us all to be warm. Patience has affected my day-to-day life from photography in every way. I mean, it allows me to just center myself and calm down and think about what really needs to be done instead of thinking about it too hard and rushing it. What signifies that I got the shot is that I end up getting the same picture that I had in my head. It's not very often that I get the photo that I'm looking for, but I more so do it for the thrill and the chase of it. I like the chase because it helps me ground myself with nature and find my tranquility and help with my sobriety. The advice that I'd give is be patient. You might not always get the shot that you want, but it's there. You just got to be patient.